Hello, my name is Brad Bodnar-Chuck, and welcome to the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast, where we discuss everything hospitality, from the food on the plate to the teams that make it happen and the community that drives this industry forward. On this podcast, we sit down and chat with some of the most exciting, inspiring, and innovative minds that make up one of the most dynamic industries that there is today. And today I have the pleasure of being joined by none other than Jess and Asha from Kula Foods. Welcome to the show, ladies.
Hi.
Hi, Brad.
It is later in the day on Thursday.
Yeah.
And after many attempts from all parties in the room,
Yep.
we were finally sitting down. And as I said before we came on air, I want to say thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for giving me your time on this Thursday evening. So thank you both for being here.
Oh, we're so excited.
We're so excited.
Yeah.
Thank
Very
you.
cool. Very cool. I'm excited to dig in deep and find out more about you guys, find out more about your brand and more about your stories and how you got to where you're at today. So I'm going to dive in right there. The first question I love to lead off this podcast with is generally just that: the who, the where, the what, the why, the when. You both and food. So take us back, not necessarily with Kula, but just your association or memories with food. Take us back as far as you can remember to where you and food kind of began.
Yeah.
Back in the
You go first.
No,
go
Jess.
Okay.
Go
Are you
ahead.
sure?
Yes.
All right. So for myself, back when my first memory of food, I grew up with an amazing single mom who I have no idea how she did it. And part of being in a large family of four, and with a mom that worked and went to school and picked us up. And I don't know how she did it. Part of us growing up is sometimes making meals for ourselves and getting in the kitchen like super early, age like 8, 7. My little sister was she was obviously the youngest and 6 years old, making food with us in the kitchen because that's what her brothers and sisters were doing. So yeah, that was my earliest memory of food, was making food for my brothers and sisters, having those dishes that we felt comfortable using, and my mom knowing that we were fully capable of preparing something that we wanted to eat for ourselves, giving us the breakdown and then letting us create food in the kitchen. And sometimes it was, really gross, like, like what we made. And I think about it sometimes of like what we put on in a dish of like mac and cheese, at 7 or 8, and you're like, all I want is ketchup. And we made like just a ketchup dish with,
oh wow,
peanut butter, and it was cool. We got to start creating, we got to start making food, and oftentimes now that in our adult lives we see the type of food we ate and the shopping cart, and now what the shopping cart looks like, me and my mom kind of joke about that. I'm like, how are we still alive?
Yeah, I know. It was very different for me as well growing up. A lot of different foods and foods that I wouldn't consume now as an adult. Asha, how about you?
For myself, I think my earliest memories would be in Kenya. That's where I was raised.
Okay.
And so food is different, and it's more on a survival. But what stands out for me, and we'll speak more as to how it connects to Kula, is the community experience.
Okay.
And so a lot of the times, you don't have a fridge to go to. You're going to get your veggies from the garden, which is a community garden. You get your water as you walk. You have to walk and get that.
Wow.
And so the experience with such little resource, my family and family meaning community, which are just like a bunch of our neighbors, we would share those tasks. So it means like getting your grains and pretty much pounding it into this huge so those visions come in where you're getting it into a flour form. And
okay, so cool.
Yeah, it was very labor intensive, but it was so beautiful. And so Kula kind of takes that in, and so food means a lot to me. Survival is one, but yeah, we'll get into it, I think, a little more deeper. It's more emotional attachments
that's cool.
Of my history.
So do you want to just jump right in then to the progression to Kula?
Yeah,
so
it talks to both Jess and I.
Yeah. So who wants to kind of take the reins and how Kula came to be?
Well, so Jess and I met a couple of years ago. and our connection came to like what we envision for our future, and we connected so quickly. And food was always you always see food. We stalked each other,
Right.
and we're like, oh, the black
There's another
woman in
black woman in the building. So I did stalk
Damn.
her. I stalked her. Yeah.
And likewise, and we finally got a chance to connect, and
Right.
we had a lot of dining experiences with ourselves and our friends, who pretty much are again our community.
Mm-hmm.
And just at that time was working on another project, which she's still on, with working with women in Uganda.
Oh, wow. So cool.
Like we were actually wearing the bracelets.
Oh, dope.
Shameless.
Yeah, shameless plug. No, hey, no shameless plugs at all.
But that, like, it's opening that thought, and we just started talking about our experiences, and food always came up in terms of how to share,
Right.
and not just so on the go, that we're so used to here.
Right.
And so those early memories of my family and my community, pretty much preparing all those meals together, and enjoying them together, and eating a certain way, and finding that richness in such little resource, is the inspiration of Kula.
Cool.
In terms of how it was born.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
it means eat.
Yeah.
Yes.
In Swahili. So
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
we get directly right to what it is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
loved hearing about, at this time, we just had a lot of downtime about, casting a vision for our future, essentially, like what we would love to do and bring to the city. And even how we connected, we always connected over food. There's there's an avenue to conversation over food.
Right.
And Asha would tell me about her family. I love that imagery of like people from different villages getting what they could get from maybe what they grew as a family, and coming together and making food together and singing while they're making it.
So cool.
And like, I was like, wow, this is so amazing. And it just resonated with, I think, who I am as a person, of bringing people together and connecting, and women and family, and family not just being blood, but Asha quickly became family
Yeah.
to me. And I think that kind of speaks to Vancouver too, like a city full of misfits that, kind of come together and people become family.
Totally. I think there's a point in our lives where those lines get blurred a bit between friends and family, and friends become family, and not one's not better than the other, but it just, I feel like, that title of family or friend just doesn't really exist when it's certain bonds that you create with people.
Oh, yeah.
And especially when we're talking about food, something that's come up on this podcast, pardon me, many, many times, is just that, how food brings us together. And that's why I'm here on this podcast. That's why we're here tonight. It's because you guys are doing something with food, and I'm doing a podcast about the hospitality industry. So it's just, food is very much the catalyst to so many things that we do day in and day out. And I love that you guys are keeping that at the forefront of what you're doing, because it's so important. And I feel like it's getting less and less of the reality that we live in right now, because people are so busy and there's so much noise. It's refreshing to have a brand like what you guys are doing, and doing your best to preach that with what you're doing. Is like, hey, like, our food is best enjoyed with other people. How do you communicate that through your brand, or through, it's all good, we have some guests coming in, no worries. How do you communicate that through your brand, or through like the markets that you guys are at? How do you describe and tell that story about Kenya and your experience and community? Do you have an opportunity to do that, or is it few and far between?
Oh, definitely. Every opportunity, it's almost like you don't have to make too much of an effort, because we made a conscious choice of where we produce or where we sell our products, or where we exist currently, and how we start.
Okay.
And so the one that does stand out is Juice Truck, who pretty much like just blessed us with the space for us to be able to host our community dining.
Right.
And
I saw that. Yeah.
our
So
first,
cool.
and it's going to be a series where you will see us popping up at Juice Truck, and we are going to build that community within our brand, and it's again effortless, by just simply saying, hey, we're going to have this food, we're going to talk, and people who never met came out to our first dining event, and they were able to share the space and actually have conversations, and it didn't really take the effort of us having to introduce them, except for just simply, hosting and providing
Right.
that ability to come out. And so the connection happens there, and then some people come up to us at the market. Actually, even being a farmer's market, that's a huge community where you get support as a new brand.
Right.
I don't even know where we would have landed if we didn't start off there, and that's the grassroots of exactly what we're talking
cool.
about. And we can get into like food sustainability, and generally the people that attend farmers markets are looking for that. They're in that community.
They're
and
like-minded people.
Yeah, and then
it's
they're like,
in their
oh,
neighborhood.
Man,
Yeah, it's in their neighborhood, and that's where they are. And then even today, I had a guy who was like, "You don't remember me? I'm the guy that always buys all your food." I'm like, "Oh yeah, buddy, yeah." And it's like, I think that was an almost it was the best choice to start this way, is to build our community, build the people that know us, and have that face to face. And even at the community dining, it was so cool. People who didn't know each other, we watched them share our food. And that's one of our, I guess you can say, taglines or mantras or ethos, is like making food designed for sharing.
Okay.
And so we saw people sitting at the dinner, didn't know each other. We were all placed quite squishy because we had a really full house and it was awesome.
Yeah.
But they're passing the plate and hey, did you try this? Oh, let me passing chapati. It was so amazing to see. We didn't have to communicate that. Like, this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to pass food. That was just, when people come together, that's just our natural desire, is to make sure we're filled, and are you okay, and here, have this, hey, try it with this, oh, did you do this, oh my god, relating to the food and relating to having people to share it with. And at the end of it, it was like we had a little family. Like, we were just hugging people at the end, like we just met you. We're like, thank you, and they're thanking us, and it was just so much joy that came out of not only just the food, because the food is amazing, but it was also being able to have community.
Sure.
It's the act, right? It's the act of coming together, and food again is just that catalyst that people and that's the thing too, is everyone needs to eat. It's like a biological need. So being able to facilitate a space for people to come and try your product, and then have it just serendipitously happen that people are then like engaging and saying hello instead of being on their phones and doing those things. I'd be interested to see though as well, and challenge you guys, say like 2 years, 3 years from now, to see where your brand is at. And if you've gotten to the point where it's a little bit bigger, and how do I say this? I feel like I wasn't at the pop-up. I'll be at the next one for sure. But I feel like your followers get it. Right. So the people that were at that event, they get it. They get it. They get it. It's like they get the brand, they get what you guys are about, they support it. They're about it too. So I wonder if there's a point where like you get bigger, and there's people that maybe don't follow you on Instagram or don't really know the story, but they love your food because their friend had or something like that. How do we educate them and bring them into the mix as well? Is that a challenge, do you think? Does it happen innately, or is that just a part of growing?
Yeah, I think there was a bit of something what you said, like we all need to eat, but I think there's also an element that we all need community, and we all like, I think that's almost what we don't know what we need sometimes. We see things like Facebook coming up, and being a part of these online groups, and being able, with Twitter, to be able to jump into a conversation and make my voice heard. And we're forming these little communities, micro on a digital level and a personal level. So I don't foresee it being too hard. I don't think it would necessarily be me and Asha all the time. But as I think we as human beings desire to be almost in tribes, and that's one of our pillars, is this tribe life. Like doing things together as one. I think we'll always communicate that, because that's who we are as a brand, and that's how we started, and that's how Asha's family and my family did things. It was always a together thing. That as we grow and as people start to understand a little bit more about the brand, but that becomes a part of eating this food. That it's not saying that you can't eat it alone, but eating it together is just so much better. Enjoying this with your family, enjoying this even with a coworker, if you are someone who is alone. I think we even talked about that in the beginning. We're like, oh, should we say this? Well, you can share it. You can share your experience. I've tried this. It's almost forming community of your own by even just talking about something that you loved.
I think it's also being mindful and focused on how we continue to drive our brand. So driving it home to community, and and that's part of, you know, our responsibility
Mm-hmm.
in terms of remembering why we're doing this. I think what we want to hang on to is that aspect, and there are so many ways to do it. And currently, you know, even through a farmer's market, if we step away from community dining,
Right.
working with growers and like just being that close is another way. And I think it's going to evolve for sure. But it would be very difficult to hold on to Kula and be in tune without that aspect.
Right.
It would be missing, and I don't think it'd be the same. So I can't speak to the future,
Right.
but our plan is much bigger, I think, in terms of taking the brand from just North America to really bringing it back to, you know, where the inspiration comes from.
Right.
But yeah, the community will be bigger.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be something that we strive to continue to keep at. And I'm going to go back to Juice Truck as a good example.
Right.
And I mean, they're the leaders of, you know, plant-based community here.
Right.
And what impresses me is their ability to connect to that community side. In each of their locations, there's a community space, and they bring in, you know, leaders of, you know, anything. Like it could be speakers on, you know, mental health. And I've as a new mom, I attended a lot of their Mama Mondays, and
Okay.
you know, having that support to go to and have someone, and just being around other moms in one room.
Yeah.
So they stuck to that, and I think that's part of their success, and that's what stands out. So if you go and see a Juice Truck juice,
Right.
you know, at a random store, I'm going to remember, oh yeah, I was there
Right.
at this period, and I can have so many conversations with people. So
Very cool.
I think that's an example of a brand that I think we
Yeah,
can align
that's
with
really
in terms of how we want to portray Kula as
I
for
think,
future growth.
yeah, I think companies like Juice Truck, and I've talked about on this podcast a bit about Tom's Shoes,
Yes.
like social
100%.
entrepreneur, like social economics, right?
Yeah.
Like people are
Easy
creating
to remember.
businesses, but they're doing it for a cause.
For
Yeah.
sure.
You know what I mean? Like they're-
Fairfina.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard of Fairfina. So a very close friend of ours who has a social enterprise. And
Okay.
he works with women in Mali who are farmers, and they grow all of the grains that they have here.
Oh, wow.
And so building that community and bringing it back again. That's
And
another
same thing with
example.
like Kin and Kingdom, like
Kin
with
and
the
Kingdom,
bracelets.
yeah,
Yeah,
with the bracelets.
it's just always bringing it back, like taking what we have. I think when you're blessed with much, you can give much. You know, you can. Same thing with Fairfina. I have the ability to start a business here, so I'm going to give back to
Right.
you know, the community and a place that, you know, and you have this like natural kind of like ebb and flow of making sure we're mindful of each other, and mindful of creating opportunities for people
Right.
that will sustain not just their today but their tomorrow and their future. And yeah, it's really cool to have something that is physical, but it actually is doing so much more.
Yeah, it's bigger than a jar of food,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Something that I'm always challenged by in the space that we live in right now and the way we consume food is the success of the model of what we call a QSR. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, like a quick service restaurant, where like I don't want to say their name, I'll say it all the time, but like Tractor or Railtown Cafe,
Right.
like they're doing some really good stuff. Like their products are fresh and it's cool and it's fun and I don't want to put too long of a tail on this kite, but coming back to the whole community piece is I have fear that when my now 10-week-old daughter is my age, 36, community and food will look a lot different. And the question I have for you guys is, it's great that Kula is pushing this community thing. This community vibe is a part of what you guys do, but where and how can we make bigger change in the space that is dining and food and restaurants? Because right now what's happening is in places like QSR restaurants is there's very little interaction. There's very little community. It's like a get in and get out.
Yeah.
Whereas dining, like what you were describing back home, and dining like what I was used to on like a Sunday night, it's now kind of waning a bit from our lives. So whether you speak to Kula or just to the industry as a whole, do you feel like that is where we're going? 2, do you feel like there's a potential for us to change that? Or is it just inevitable?
I think there is. It's so funny, and I don't know if we were supposed to share this, but when we were first trying to figure out what Kula was, we were thinking of doing this as an in-home experience,
Yeah.
like
Oh, cool. Yeah.
creating an experience of making food together.
Yeah.
So it wasn't going to be, kind of like that QSR model.
Right.
We were just like, okay, how do we get into people's homes and teach them how to roll together?
Mm-hmm.
Because how we were talking about this beautiful picture of people coming together and bringing what they had. So we're like, okay, this person will get them to go out and buy
Yeah, I like
stew,
that.
and this person get the flour, and then they have like a dinner party, like a
Yeah.
Tupperware party, and come
Right,
together.
yeah.
And remember that? And there's so many moving parts, but
Right.
it's, I think, even something like that, just developing it, that within, like the, kind of like the meal prep
Mm-hmm.
thing that's kind of going on right now.
Totally, yeah.
That is something we even thought about so I think that could be developed, not just with our brand,
Right.
but really getting people to bring it into their home and opening the doors up to their home to that, because it's
Do you
something
feel-
that's
Do you feel like the only
unique.
option though for us to have that is in our home? Like I feel like my only exposure that my family will have, and again, this is being very dramatic,
Right,
so
yeah.
take this with a grain of salt, but I just feel like, and talking to chefs that own restaurants,
Mm-hmm.
it's not getting any cheaper. And you guys know as well,
Oh, for
producing
sure,
food
for
is
sure.
not
It
getting
is
cheaper.
not.
Food's not
It's
getting
not cheap.
cheaper.
Yeah.
So to have a restaurant, to have staff, to pay for linens, to pay for electricity, all these things, their margins are so small. So when someone sees next door open up a QSR model and they're making 4 times the margin that the traditional restaurant is making,
Yeah.
the restaurant's going like, what are we doing? We can
Right.
cut our staff in half.
Mm-hmm.
We can put in more seats. We can make it less stress
Mm-hmm.
and make more money.
Mm-hmm.
So my concern is that the only true community touch point we'll have when it comes to food is relying on brands like Kula, which is great that you guys are populating that space. But I feel like that, and then Sunday dinners, is that kind of all we're going to have? Is just like Kula, other brands like you guys, and then Sunday kitchens or Sunday dinners, pardon me? Or is there potential for there to be a change in the industry that really pushes community forward?
I see a lot of pop-ups as a potential opportunity when we look at an example. But food sustainability is a real issue, I
Right.
think, in terms of being able to, again, like you said, start a business and maintain with creating that kind of experience. But even with the restaurants, I still see that fast, and that's what we pull away from,
Right.
and that is like, having this many staff because you're going to have this much volume of people and they need to be out
Right.
at this time. So I think what we're seeing people be more creative with, and I remember reading a recent article, because pop-up is pretty much our space right now.
Yeah.
I think that's what people are starting to do now, to be able to still have that opportunity.
Consumers are going that way. Yeah.
They are more in tune with it. I'm hearing a lot about there are potlucks without being together.
Yeah.
Right.
I like that.
So I think as long as the creativity is there,
Right.
but at the end of the day, we still want those restaurants. We still want to be able to go out with our friends and family and, get out there. And I mean, that's like the smallest problem of it all. But food sustainability is a big focus, I think. And
Right.
more brands should be, I think, aware of that and just be, try. You can't fix it, right? But you can try to help that process.
Yeah.
And, but I don't even know if I have a solution.
Yeah, no, I wasn't.
But I see like pop-ups right now as a potential of keeping that
Right,
going.
keeping it alive.
Yeah, keeping it alive and in a more affordable manner.
Right.
And in our place of community in the kitchens, we're hearing more of that.
Cool.
So I'm happy that we're getting that. I hope by 36 Lena has even more
opportunity.
I'm like, is it going to be more of a digital experience, right? Who
Right.
knows how that's going to look?
Scary. Yeah.
Yeah, it's scary
I know,
thought, but
like,
it's already
whoa.
there. That's what I meant. Digital potluck.
Oh, digital potluck. Yeah.
There's a
Pardon me.
digital
Yeah.
potluck that's actually already starting off. And so, I mean, that's weird to me.
Right.
Someone actually offered for us to be involved in that recently. And I was like,
Okay.
Digital potluck.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you mean? So we're gonna just
Yeah.
like
I thought asking you guys for a podcast was weird.
Yeah.
But a digital potluck.
Yeah.
yeah, it's odd, but I mean, there are, you know, I know people that have met, you know, people around the world without physically being together.
Right.
And they see each other every day. Like, you can actually be in front of a person
Right.
based on what's available to us. And so that it may actually lead into that where, you know, as long as there's some sort of a push for community and involvement, even if it's digital,
Right.
which is such an odd thing right now
To wrap your head around, yeah.
It could be that.
Changing speeds a bit.
Yes.
I'm a big music fan. Music and food to me is like
Me
just goes
too.
together like
Yeah.
like peanut butter and jam. It's
Yes.
just so like on the way here I was listening to some of my favorite hip hop just to
Yes.
like get in the zone and
Yes.
and I was thinking, I ask a lot of people this question when I'm interviewing 2 or more people. I try and think of like an iconic band or iconic like hip hop duo or group and ask my guests of the duo who are you. So I immediately thought of Salt and Peppa. So without knowing too much about like their like personalities, just the names themselves, like who is Salt and who is Peppa between Jess and Asha? Who's who? And take Salt for what it is and take Peppa for what it is.
Yeah. I
think you're peppery.
I could be peppery.
Yeah?
You're
a little
peppery.
bit.
Yeah.
Depends on the day.
She'll
Okay.
shock you
Okay.
because like she's like, and you're like, whoa, you do, what?
It's
So that's
just
what I mean.
yeah, it's how comfortable I am and the you know, the mood.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it's awesome. You could be peppery too.
I
but
can be
think-
peppery too.
Yeah.
I think,
See, I
yeah.
I look at Peppa being more like
Yeah.
this. I know nothing about this woman, but
Yeah.
talking about pepper and
Yeah,
salt.
Peppa,
Yeah. Pepper, I feel like is that thing you add to a dish that adds like some levels and some complexity, and you're like
Yeah.
you taste it and it's there. It's spicy a little bit.
Yes.
It's kind of unassuming at times.
Yeah.
And salt is like the finisher.
Yeah.
Salt goes in there and like levels it up.
Yeah.
And it highlights everything else
Yeah.
in the dish.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
do you with that?
We're accurate on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
100% now.
Cool.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
new nicknames for social
Peppa.
media.
Peppa.
What's up?
Salt and-
Um,
so who's your
Yeah.
actual like duo and
Who's like for
your-
me?
yeah. Who
Like-
are you
Are
listening
you?
to?
Oh, who to listen to?
Yeah, what did you listen to on the way here? Actually.
Joey Badass.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm a big
good.
Joey
Yeah,
Badass fan.
yeah.
I'm really into the new Mac Miller album. I don't know if
Okay.
you guys mess with
I
Mac
have-
Miller, but
not the
the
recent
newest one.
album.
Yeah, so Mac
I feel
Miller
like
I'm
I'm
really
always
into right now.
yeah.
J. Cole, I can
Yeah.
never get too much
Yeah.
J.
Yeah.
Cole.
Yeah.
Just so good.
Kendrick.
Russ, Kendrick I like.
Yeah.
This is fun talking about music for a minute. You know what? Actually, food related. I'm actually a big fan of Action Bronson. I don't know if you guys know his stuff, but I find him, and we can talk about this. I find him very. How do I say this? I find him obnoxious a bit.
Yes.
But what
But,
I love and respect about him is he's unapologetically being himself.
For sure.
Like,
Okay.
Yeah.
well, at least it comes across that way. He could
Yeah,
be he could be like a
Oh,
total.
I think
but-
I think it's
But to that,
Yeah.
again, changing speeds a bit. Do you guys find it challenging to be unapologetically yourselves, whether it's putting up a story on Instagram or whether it's just being a badass mom and being a badass entrepreneur? Like, do you ever find you have to not have to? Do you ever find yourselves muting that a bit, or are you both just like, hey, this is me. I'm Jess, and I'm a female entrepreneur, and I'm owning it, and I'm Asha, and I'm a mom, and I'm crushing life?
Yeah.
Or do you feel like you have to be a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
not only just in today's world, but as female entrepreneurs and as people who are representing a brand?
I think there's an awareness of it, and kind of being female, being entrepreneurs, being half of us being moms, being young, myself, and also being Black. I think those are all levels that we can kind of hit, and that are things we are aware of and conscious of, and also excited to bring to this marketplace and to bring to Vancouver and to show an excellence in all those categories
Right.
of influence. And being unapologetic about all of it.
Good.
And being like, yeah, this is us. This is who we are. We were just having this conversation. We carry this massive tent to do these farmers markets, and I'm just like hauling it through the back of the kitchen. And then Asha has done this as a mom, and just like, have daughter on his side and doing the same thing. And we're like, I wonder what people think of us. And we're like, no, we're hustling.
Yeah.
We just had this before we came up here. So there's some things that we are aware.
Right.
And I think that's being responsible to be aware. Sometimes.
Correct. Yeah.
But at the same time being like, no, but I'm going to be unapologetic about how I'm doing things,
Right.
the way I'm doing things, making sure that we talk about and educate in a way that people understand,
Right.
and reframing and re-changing mindsets about certain things. And yeah, being ourselves is huge. I think people are super cognizant of when people are not being themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, it shows.
Do you find a challenge for you, Asha? You don't strike me as someone that's too concerned with other people's opinions.
I think
Peppa.
I think I wouldn't Peppa. I wouldn't have been part of Kula or even taken that step of creating a brand if I was not ready to just be myself. And that's a journey that I had to go through. It's like a journey of being my natural self, and not so, and I know I stand out. Like, so if I walk in a room, I'm in Vancouver, I'm going to stand out.
Right.
I mean, I come from Toronto, and, I think it was just getting to the point of being so comfortable in my skin.
Right.
Before I can, working for a corporation where, I was not, it wasn't me. And that's where, I spent my 15 years
Right.
of pretending or just going along with it.
Right.
And, dressing a certain way and looking a certain way.
Right.
And now I wear whatever I want. I have my child with me whenever I want.
Yeah.
And I have a daughter who watches everything I do.
Exactly.
It's very brilliant. And I'm a Black woman, I'm an African woman. And so representing an African brand. And, so we get a lot of eyes, right?
Right.
And so the other side for me, the uncomfortable side, is that privacy. I'm a very private person.
Okay.
In many ways. And so the challenge for me is that, being
publicly private.
We talk about Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah. Being so public is not
It's not your jam.
Yeah, it's not my jam. But I'm navigating that, and I think I'm not quite there yet.
Right.
But as far as everything goes, I've never felt so comfortable, and I think because of that,
Okay.
I don't actually give a
Give a bleep.
give
a bleep. Good for you.
And it feels so good.
Yeah,
That
it's
feels
so
really
it's
good.
so liberating, and
Feels great.
I feel like that is the 2%.
Yeah.
98% of society, and there's nothing wrong with the people. If you're the 98%, do you, if that's what you
sure.
want to do. But I personally, when this airs, I will be out of my full-time paying job and be doing this
Amazing.
and consulting full-time. It just feels so
So
good.
good.
So good. And I wouldn't be able to do it, though. Coming back to what we were talking about, being unapologetic, I don't think we can do it without community and without tribe and
sure.
without that support.
No way.
So for me, it's my partner Lindsay
Yes.
and our beautiful daughter and other people that are in my tribe.
Yeah.
And I would imagine it's you for each other,
It's us.
your
yeah.
family as well,
Yeah.
and it's just being true to what Kula is. And I don't
Sure.
think brands like yours can stand out if it's if there's a facade, if it's not
Right.
real. And
Yeah.
I think because of things like social media and because of people being so aware, consumers being so aware, they'll see right through that. And if not right away, eventually,
Yeah.
and they're going to go shop somewhere else.
Absolutely.
So kudos for
Absolutely.
you both for representing everything that you
Oh,
are,
for sure.
from where you come from,
Yeah.
what you're producing. I think that's so empowering. And I'm excited sitting down with people like yourselves as female entrepreneurs, because I feel like there is just starting to be a voice for people like yourselves, and people are starting to respect women in the economy and in the workbalance.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So again, I'll say 5 more times before we end, but kudos to you guys for doing it, because it takes balls is a bad term, but it takes a lot of guts and
Totally.
grit
Yeah.
to do
No,
that.
absolutely. But you're right. I think having my partner,
Mhm.
like my husband has been, he's like, go for it. You're gonna
Yeah.
go and do different thing that like our creative side just opened up, and just how everything flowed.
Right.
And as soon as I knew, and I think it started with the moment I found out we were gonna have a daughter.
Right.
And I look up to like my big go-to people are Beyonce and Serena.
Okay.
Oftentimes, like
Yeah.
these are
They're
amazing,
beasts.
strong.
Yeah.
They're amazing. Like
Yeah.
they're just so strong. But they tune into who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And having a daughter, I think is, so I come from a house of women.
Okay.
My mom had 11 kids,
Holy.
7 girls, very strong woman, was a refugee, went through it all, came to Canada, and just like, ensured that her kids got everything they needed.
Right.
While, still being fabulous as she is, right?
Right.
And so as soon as I found out we were having a daughter, it changed the mindset of how I'm going to put my energy and who I would put it to. And so Kula was just like, it just opened that creative side, which was locked for a very long time.
Right.
I love music, come from like, dancing background and just expression through music. And so food speaks to that in that aspect. And I think with Jess and I giving ourselves that opportunity, there are just like recipes flowing out. And that's that creative side of not being suppressed.
Right.
And being able to do whatever you want. And, there's a community behind that is interested in seeing it. And so we're so lucky to have that too.
Jess, can you paint a picture for the listeners and the viewers? What were you doing before Kula? You mentioned the bracelets.
Yeah. It was funny. So this idea for Kin and Kingdom, because I always say it a little fast, but Kin and Kingdom came out of a little nerdy side of loving the thought of being in like this medieval time and the idea of community. You have your kingdom, and like the kingdom is like everyone works sometimes for the kingdom's well-being, and like they all have their talents and their skill. You have the blacksmith who's doing his thing, making swords, and you have like the baker, and everyone's coming together to make sure that their kingdom stays strong, to make sure the walls are up, and to make sure that they're producing for their community. And then the kin idea is just being more than family or more than friends. It's not necessarily blood, but you're my kin. Like, Asha, you're my kin girl, Peppa. But like, you know what I mean? Like people, and that's for me being raised in Vancouver. My family's from the UK, so I'm like Caribbean English, I guess, if that was what you say. But my entire family, my dad and my mom's side, are in the UK. So I really had that desire to have a family here and sisters here and cousins here. So that just became part of what I wanted to do. So I did, this is kind of a university project, and I wrote a thesis on it, the idea of this creative economy and bringing people together and building community as kind of that Tom's model of giving back. And so that's kind of that brainchild that I'm working on, and it's still there. And but my real pin job, I was a marketing manager for a coffee company, and did a lot of the marketing for food. For different companies.
So now are you it's fully Kula?
Fully Kula.
Sweet.
Kula. So I had it was so much fun kind of working with Asha to do the branding and talk about what we're about, and kind of developing that, like, what colors speak to us. And people don't really think about that, but it's just that there is so much to say about color and connecting feeling, and even in our logo, everything's connected. And there are things that you might not look at to make a logo or a brand, but it's like, everything's connected as the sun, and bringing it back to why we started this company. So that was
cool.
That was the money.
Are you happy to be out of that world and now into this like fully entrepreneur?
Totally.
You doing you?
Yeah, it was a bit of what Asha said. I found myself sitting in a cubicle, waking up and doing the same thing every day, but a little bit different. And it was just like, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I always had a kin and kingdom in the back of my pocket, wanting just to press in. But then the reality of living in a place like Vancouver, where you're like, okay, I'm going to either have to choose to live or not live.
Die.
There was just not a medium, and that's actually one of the reasons why I did start Kingdom Kingdom, to be able to bring in a bit of my creativity to what I was doing, the practical. And I think that's fair to do something practical until the opportunity comes, which it did, to be able to venture out into something that was like an unknown, into a bit of a wilderness place.
Right.
And I think me and Asha were both at the exact same place. And again, you can call it forces, universe, God brought us together at such a perfect time to have these conversations, to be at a place where we could just, start something and start talking about it and start thinking about it. It didn't happen overnight. It was last year that we were thinking about it. And so it's so special to see something for me that I've always wanted. I've always wanted to have my own company and to be an entrepreneur and to be creative and to be myself, like Asha was saying, to dress however I want and be weird and cool, but cool for what I want. Cool
you define cool.
Me define cool. Whereas in your corporate setting, and even in a university setting, for those younger listeners, you are sometimes kind of told what is right, told what is acceptable, told how to do something. We're like, actually, I would do this differently. And it's okay for a season, but, put that down, write it down. Don't forget about what you've always wanted in your dream, but make the steps towards making it happen. And there will be opportunity, like it happened with Asha. I stalked her. No idea this would come out of finding the only black girl in my building.
That's awesome. Hey, serendipity.
Yeah, serendipity.
Yeah. One thing I'd love to talk about, and I've done it multiple times on this podcast, is inspiration. And I read a book a while ago. Shout out to a book called Big Magic. The author's name is escaping me right now, but she wrote Eat, Pray, Love.
Okay.
Yeah.
So very famous movie as well. Yeah, but the Big Magic talks about inspiration, and she talks about how inspiration is like an actual living thing. It's like a plant. Right. So one day inspiration comes to me about an idea, and I can either choose to act on it or not. If I don't act on it, if I don't feed it and nurture it, then it's going to go find someone else. So do you guys find with Kula, you had a moment where you were both inspired and you just acted on it? Or was it really conscious? Like you had to be like, okay, this is what I want to do, but I'm a little bit uncertain. Should we do it? Should we not? Did it take a while, or was there inspiration hit you and then wheels started turning?
I think it was inspiration.
I was going to say, it's like almost like a little
There were a lot of lights and
conversation.
I think it was just a moment for me, it's decision of not going back to the world as my past world in terms of career wise. And I make it sound really dark, but lots of great experiences.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you learn a ton.
Right? Like a lot of strength in even managing a business. But I think it was that moment of, I'm going to have this beautiful baby. And we talked about it for a bit in terms of, we didn't even have a name yet.
Right.
But we were just talking about the in-home dining experience. And we were thinking very small. But yeah, that inspiration hit us, I think, with the name. And then it just rolled. And then us, again, bringing it to that community, or just friends. A lot of our friends pretty much were eating food, and they were the ones that were like, you
gotta sell
you should
it.
do this,
so
and
funny.
like this would be amazing, and this, and then the ideas came in, and then we were like, where can we start, right? And then we hit the planning phase, but something hit us, and I think it was the name and why we want to do this.
Yeah, I think that's the universe. It's the friends telling you, "Hey, you should do this," and you're like, "I don't know," but you keep hearing it. You're like, "Wait a second." That to me is inspiration. That to me is the universe saying, like, "Hey, you either act on this or someone else is going to do it. I'm going to find someone else to facilitate this for me." So kudos to you guys for recognizing that. It's so interesting as well on this podcast. People that I meet, entrepreneurs like yourself, both female and male, that are doing exactly what you guys have done in a different way, a different product or a different service.
Absolutely.
But they were making something and their friends were like, damn, like this is really good. I'm reminded of Natalie at East Van Jam. I don't know if you guys know Natalie. She's awesome. Shout out to Natalie. You're amazing.
Hey, Natalie.
I would love to hook you guys up with Natalie. You guys would just jam with her so well. Awesome. Actually, and she makes jam. So East Van Jam is her brand.
I've had East Van
Jam. Yeah. So it was kind of similar for her as well. She
Yeah.
saw a space in the market, and
Right.
she said, "You know what? Why not me?"
Yeah.
And I think that's such a empowering conversation
Totally.
to have with yourself, and then
Totally.
to be able to have with a partner as well. Do you guys feel like if you didn't meet, Kula would be a thing, or it
Probably
had to be
not.
both of you?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Yeah.
It's
no.
It was a lot of conversations of the past in order for it to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
And building
Right.
our friendship too.
Yeah. Our friendship really evolved around our goals.
Right.
I think the future goals and like what we want to do and like how
where
we
we
would like
see
to see
ourselves
ourselves
Yeah.
in the
and our
world.
families.
And
yeah.
so it just all kind of twirled into that. So
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Mhm.
No.
I can't say if it would,
Yeah.
maybe it's something else, but
Mhm.
Definitely not Kula.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jess, what do you think about the quote? You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
110%.
Yeah.
Agree with that.
So who is that for you?
You want me to list
Top
the
five.
people?
Top five.
Top 5 people that I spend my time with right now. And you know what? It's interesting because that does change. I was thinking about that. Obviously, I pretty much am Asha's second husband.
Yeah.
So one. I'm like,
Yeah.
look at my phone.
Yeah.
Asha, I would say my girl Lindsay. She's amazing. She's an artist.
Shout out Lindsay.
Shout out Lindsay Taylor. Amazing art. She's a realism artist, does installations, and she pushes me towards creativity in everything I do and challenges the way I think all the time. My girlfriend Chloe, she lives a block away and still lives on my couch. So I don't know, but she's a DJ. Again, just moved into a space of being an amazing female DJ
Right.
in the Vancouver space, which is hard to become a DJ in this space. I would say Rupak, she's again another amazing mom who has so much passion and fire for just her community, for the church that we go to, for her kids. She's Kurdish and just like insane, always about her culture, bringing that back.
Right.
You know, having a little. Anyways, and then and I would say last, and I know this might sound really lame, but my mom.
No, it's not lame at all. Own it.
And my mom's
Own
my
it.
friend. My mom's my friend, and I think I've only developed a friendship with my mom outside of her being my mom in the last couple of years, and that's really special to be able to have such a good relationship with my mom, where let's go for a hike, let's talk about life.
Right.
And you know, it's so cool. Like, and shout out to my mom. She's going to do something that I did. I inspired her. She's always wanted to be a doula, and she's been
awesome.
working in a government job forever, and she's going to be a doula next year. And I'm like, yes, because you know, it doesn't take having to have like a lordship of a parent,
Right.
you know, to be inspired by them, but sometimes we inspire them.
Oh,
and
big
so,
time.
yeah, I think it's all like-minded people who we can surround ourselves with, and they make us better. They push us toward creativity.
Yeah.
They challenge our way of thinking. They support us. They love us. They nurture us. They cry with us. It's just, yeah.
And not lame at all. Shout out all moms, because
Yeah,
if it wasn't for
shout out to
moms, we wouldn't be here.
100%.
Yeah, that's just reality.
Listen, Halima.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Girl.
My daughter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Before we begin to wrap it up, and my wrap ups usually take a little while, but I want you both to answer this differently, if you can, but describe for the listeners who haven't experienced it yet what Kula is. Figure out who goes first, but I would love for the answers to be different. Jess needs some water. So Asha, it's on you.
That was strategic.
Oh, that's a tough one.
And in my mind's eye, I'm thinking maybe someone speaks to more of like the bigger picture, and then someone can speak to more of like the actual tangible things. Like what Kula offers this, Kula offers that. But I want to know from one of you what Kula is beyond what we already spoke about. Pardon me. Like it is community, it is those things.
Sure. Yeah.
So again, putting you guys on the spot, I apologize with that. But are you able to answer what Kula is and do
I
it?
kind of just thought of something.
Go for it.
Yeah. And it comes back to the conversation we were just having before this awesome podcast. Thank you. Is, you know, what the food and what does food do for us?
Okay.
And I think on a larger scale that sometimes isn't talked about always, because I wouldn't say it gets missed, but it's making food and understanding that food can heal our bodies.
Okay.
And food is, it's something that we need to relook at, and how we see food and how we see food in terms of what it can do for us. So we've mentioned a lot about community, but for me, the thing I love about the stew that we make and about Kula is that we have a commitment to sustainability, to our environment, to reducing waste, to supporting local farmers, to making food that has no preservatives in it, that's making food that's fresh and that heals our bodies. And that is not going to take away from our bodies and take away from our health. And it's going to feed us in everything that we need, and making sure that we're making food that hits all those aspects other than, and that's a larger scale. So if we can get people behind not just our company, but other companies that are making food that will heal our bodies, and not just, say that, oh, health check, but, health check, does my food have properties that will heal me, that I can feed to my kids and I can feed to myself, and know that I'm going to tomorrow know that I made a good decision.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that. And why would you not want to eat that kind of food?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It tastes good.
Yeah.
And it tastes good. And it's flavorful. And
then Ash, maybe for you, let's just rhyme off. I mean, if you have something to go with it. But I also would love for you to rhyme off like your actual menu as well, so people understand what it is you're producing.
For sure.
Well.
I do want to go back to actual Kula, like the meaning of meat, and it has a lot of deep meanings for us. And I think bringing it back to sustainability, and the other second part is the connection of food culturally around the world. And so when you have Kula food, you can think of, we have people from in Europe, that the mandazi reminds them of their, childhood or what they had, right?
Can you describe a mandazi, to the listeners?
Mandazi is it's a Kenyan style donut or a half cake, which has cardamom, and, we make them not too sweet, but really it's just delicious donut. It's one of my favorite. But I get a lot of, this reminds me of this, and so that connection of flavor and how to mix, not being afraid of spices. Like what drives me the most insane is trying a food and there's no flavor for myself. And I think there's a lot of fear with many creators of really going there. And I think we're doing exactly what we like as far as taste goes. And then we get a lot of people that are like, it's Indian cuisine. So this is a great education point of what Kenyan cuisine, as an example, is our first line that we have here, and we'll talk about it in a moment, is that, there's definitely inspiration of Indian cuisine, and there's history of how, that culture, pretty much impacted the food in this region. And so we can talk about like deeper connections of colonization and how that history blends in with flavor, and then how that affects us in our world point. When bringing it back to, oh my gosh, just like my words just left me.
That happens to me all the time.
Yeah, it's just like, I just said it. Sustainability, eat. Like, are we all eating?
Right.
And so one of the other out of comfort zone for me is taking pictures of food.
Okay.
And that is the thought of, having family in a place like Kenya, where there are some people that don't eat for that day. And so the impact of our goal is, how do we make sure that we take part in helping our environment in sustainability, but ensuring that we are doing our part to help someone else eat.
Right.
And so, again, I have my personal growth of how do we bring it back to the land, and we talk agriculture and the impact that we can have there. And so being, having a plant-based food there, producing that is purposeful for us in aligning to that sustainability model. So that's what speaks the most when you talk to Kula or eat. Right. Yeah.
And then if listeners and viewers want to try your product, they're going to experience what? So we have your version of the half cake or donut,
yes,
pardon me.
So that's mandazi.
Mandazi. Yeah. Then we have
our sukuma stew. Sukuma is a staple, and that's the collard greens.
Okay.
And so our stew also has a lot of lentils, so red lentils, blend of our own spice, as well as a tomato base. That is, you get the warm spices just mixed in together with our favorite spices. And it's different, but it's very familiar. So that stew is wholesome. It's high in protein. And yeah, I feed this to my 20-month-old
Very cool.
Child who thoroughly enjoys it, and I know she's getting good food.
Now, if I was to take that to Kenya with me
Yes.
and feed it to someone,
Yes.
what would they say? If I asked them 9 out of 10,
Right.
10 out of 10, what
Yeah.
would you give it?
And we do get some people from Kenya
Yeah.
who are
And they-
like, oh
and they-
yeah,
and they
okay.
say, oh,
Yeah,
okay, cool.
Amazing.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That's what I want. And I
Yeah.
want as
That's what
as
you
a
need.
white guy that was brought up in Canada, when I try something from Kenya in Vancouver, I
authentic.
want it to be like, and I'll ask if someone's in the space
Exactly.
that's from Kenya, I'll be like, hey, try this and tell me.
Yeah.
Like, how is this like what your mom does? Then I want to support
For
that,
sure.
and I want to try more
For
of
sure.
it. But if it's like some watered down version,
Then you don't want it.
Yeah.
And then there's chapati. And like that's, people come out and they're like, chapati? So chapati is the flatbread that we make.
right?
And it's not something that, it's a staple in most of the households. And in India, there's chapati or parantha. Actually, it's very, it's the exact, it's
Right.
pretty much identical.
Okay.
The process may be a bit different. But the excitement that people get of having that available, because it is a process to make it. We take our time. We roll it in a way that you get those layers as you pull it apart. And so as someone who's had chapati before, we've had people that have traveled to Kenya often, and those that have either grown up or were born in Kenya. And that's when I get the most excited, because I'm like, yeah, they're happy and they get it and they like it.
Yeah.
We know it's authentic. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, so those are the three main
Cool.
products right now. And of course, we're going to expand.
Expand.
That. Yeah.
I showed up to your tent at the market today.
Yes.
And I didn't get the gentleman's name that was helping me, but first thing he said was, "We're out of chapati."
Done.
Some guy
That was
came up
fast.
and bought it all at the
four.
beginning. And
Oh,
I was
really?
like, yes, but no.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a tough one, eh?
But it was great. And I think what he said, which was really cool, was that my wife's Trinidadian. We need to eat this.
Right.
We'll eat it all.
Yeah.
And that it's not something that she might not make. And again, being from Trinidad, my assumption she makes roti. He did call it roti, but it's similar, bread
Right.
that you eat with other foods. It's something that is cool to provide to people who want it. They don't have the time to make it because it's timely. There's a lot of love and rolling and a lot of love into making this, into making that bread. And yeah, it's needed. People want it, and it's fresh.
Love that.
Tastes authentic and good.
I would love to hook you guys up with my new friends over at Grain. Or if you guys know Eat
Yeah.
Grain.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Shira
Yes.
and oh my God, Jana. They're doing awesome things with local Canadian farmers with dry goods.
Yeah.
So things like chickpeas and lentils and wheat berries and
Oh,
like just
for
gorgeous
sure. Yes.
product. I see I can
Beautiful
see it
products.
fitting in so well with what you guys do.
For sure.
Yeah.
And talking about sustainability, like it's just what they're all about. And that's what I love about this podcast and listening Asha to you speak about like going beyond just that and affecting other things, other people. My big vision with this somehow, some way is to bring all of you guys, all of my guests back in some way, shape or form for a better cause. And whether it's like building homes somewhere or making people, I mean, food is a natural one for me, is like
For sure.
making sure people are fed,
Right.
right? It's
Yeah.
just like everyone deserves to eat and should eat. So
Yeah.
I would love to facilitate that
So
and
cool.
somehow tie in all of you guests, because
Love
I
that.
think what you guys do is really empowering and awesome.
Yeah.
So we'll start to wrap it up.
We can talk forever.
I know, we really could. Really could. But I say start to because we have 2 more questions
Okay.
left.
Okay.
It is called the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast. So I have for you both, again, on the spot, I apologize, the half a dozen have-tos. So stay with me here for a second. There's 2 of you.
Okay.
So from each of you, I need 3.
Okay.
I need 3 things you've experienced in your life. Doesn't have to be related to food. Can be art, can be a piece of clothing, can be a trip you've taken, can be a record you own. Something that you have done and you want for the listeners to experience. Like, guys, you have to climb this mountain. You have to do this. You have to do something that you've experienced that you feel others in this world should experience themselves. So I need 3 from both of you to make up half a dozen. It can be simple. It can be complicated. It can be deep. It doesn't have to be deep. You can go like 1 for 1, like Jess
Do
goes.
1 for 1.
Yeah.
Travel.
Okay.
I wouldn't have met my partner if I
Right.
hadn't just leaped and just traveled.
Cool.
I
So
think
get
that's
on a
one.
plane or get in a car or get in a
Get
train.
anywhere, get out of your zone for a moment.
I like that.
Yeah.
That one comes up a lot.
I'm going to shout someone else out. She has an amazing company called You and Her. But we had a talk, and it was kind of about looking fear in the face and trying something that might be counterculture to what maybe you've grown up with or done. And what, for me, my personal experience with that is getting involved into a community and a church. And for me, it was experiencing Jesus for the first time.
Okay.
And it was so counterintuitive to my personality, this I can do it all, whatever,
Right.
you know, and just getting involved in something that meant more, something that's bigger than myself, and that's feeding my soul. And
Cool.
yeah.
So
feed your
find
soul.
something that feeds your soul.
Yeah. And look fear in the face. Like, I don't know if that's like a 2 in 1, but it's like, that's what
Right.
caused me
That's what caused you to
do
find that. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
Hmm.
Asha, back to you. Number 2.
Go to a local concert.
Okay. Like
we love supporting international
Okay.
and having friends in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And Toronto is just booming. Most of them are there.
Right.
And there's so much you can do for your people and just the availability of that art. If you can just go to your friends and go support your friends' arts,
Right.
Yeah.
just show up.
I like that.
Take
Jess,
an
back to you.
impromptu road trip anywhere. That's
Impromptu
longer than
road trip.
24 hours.
Okay. So like
We went to California, and I didn't know this girl. I met her.
oh,
And
that's cool.
Yeah, she thought we were talking about something different, and I said, "Hey, it's my girl Lindsay that I met last year." And
right.
then 3-4 weeks later, we went to California together for a month.
Oh wow.
Yeah, do that. Go on
Impromptu road trip.
impromptu road trip,
Learn a lot about yourself and whoever else.
and
is in
whoever
town
else
with you.
you're with, it could be
Yeah.
it could be good, it could be attitude,
But yeah, you're still
it
learning
ended up
something.
being- yeah.
Asha, last one for me.
Spend some time with an elderly person.
Yeah, that's a new one.
I've learned a lot, or just been inspired by just sitting down with an elder or a kid, like a very young person,
Yeah,
and just listen when you're talking to them.
yeah.
Yeah.
2 ears in one mouth, right?
Yes.
Very important.
Yeah.
Jess, last one.
Am I allowed to say travel? That's
No.
not just travel, but travel somewhere that is not going to make you feel comfortable.
Okay, so like
Like,
eat food you don't eat, languages you don't speak,
Yes.
yeah,
get lost.
yeah. I went to the Philippines, and it was terrifying,
Right.
but amazing at the same time. I
Yeah.
lost everything. I lost my phone. I lost my
Oh my
money.
God.
Yeah, and I ate a lot of interesting food, and
Right.
it challenged me so much. And it was probably one of the best trips I ever had.
Yeah, I say it again so often. It's probably going to drive most listeners crazy, but I really love balance, but I love more imbalance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like I love starting off a podcast because I'm nervous and I don't want to mess up the intro, and I love
Right.
meeting new people that I haven't met before and
Mm-hmm.
getting them to feel comfortable around me enough to have a podcast with me or whatever it is. I find there's so much beauty in imbalance. Balance is great,
Yeah.
but it's in imbalance where we really define growth for me personally.
For
So it's
sure.
like going to the Philippines and losing
sure.
stuff that is so comforting.
Yeah,
but what do you
right.
do? You just adapt.
You adapt.
You become a mom for the first time. You haven't been a mom yet.
Get a notebook. I started writing. I had nothing else
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You just, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you
it
just
was so
adapt.
cool.
So
Yeah.
I find imbalance really
Sure.
empowering.
Yeah, for sure.
The last question I have for you is the half a dozen haven't yet. So I need from each of you 3 things that you haven't experienced yet. It can be in regards to your business, personal life. It can be trips you haven't taken, notebooks you haven't written in. 3 from each of you. So half a dozen haven't
Okay.
yet.
I haven't been to Kenya yet, and that relates to my business. And I'm so excited because I'm going to say I'm going to go. It's not I want to go. It will
Right.
happen.
Right.
And I'm excited to go to Kenya, but I have not been yet.
Can we, from the podcast, hold you accountable to that?
Yes, you can. 100%.
By when?
Next year.
It was supposed to happen by November,
November this year.
but we have a new member coming.
Yeah.
I said, I don't think so, not this year.
I
Yeah.
was like, are you
So-
sure your doctor said that?
Right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
next
she
year.
said no.
Next year.
Next year. It'd
Next
be really
year.
cool to do a kind of
Yeah.
like a different podcast about
Let's-
our experience being
Let's do it in Kenya.
in yes,
Yeah.
crowdfunding. Okay. If fierce.
Yeah.
We're going to Kenya.
We're going to Kenya. We're going to
three
do
of
something
us.
that is empowering and amazing and
Yes,
affects
and
people.
Uganda. Oh my god.
Let's do it.
Sure.
Yes.
I'm down.
This community of food. Yes. Okay. We're all accountable. You see it happening.
It's on camera. It's on audio.
Yeah.
Asha?
I just had it. Writing. I don't think I've dedicated my time in writing.
Okay. When you say
really
writing, do you mean just
creative.
like journal? Oh, like
or journal. Yeah. Any
kind of writing.
kind of writing where I actually put more thought beyond business.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And that's something you are passionate about?
I would
enjoy?
love to take that time and just put some thoughts down,
Cool.
I think.
I'm going to check in on you in a few weeks and see where you're at with your writing.
Check on me next
Yeah.
year.
you can borrow Jess's notebook from the Philippines.
I still actually have it.
Yeah. Back to you, Jess.
I just had it too. I haven't yet. I don't know. When you were talking about kids, I haven't had kids yet.
Yeah. Is that something you want to do?
Yeah. I would. You know what? It's crazy. I would love to have a huge family, but yeah, I haven't yet.
Cool. All right. Still lots of time.
Lots of time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Tons. I'm gonna finish that chief. So when I got here, it was one of our first dates with Seth was going to the chief.
Oh, the hike.
Yeah, the hike.
Okay, I wasn't sure where you were going.
Yeah,
with
I'm
that.
like the chief. I haven't seen the chief. I haven't finished the chief. Sorry, I should have gone right
to
to
it.
it
Was like a
first.
meal or something.
You
or,
like this bird.
this vegan burger.
Yeah, it's the chief.
Yeah. Okay, the hike.
That hike was definitely not finished. And yeah, it was pretty terrible showing of me.
Okay, this is one of your first dates. You said
It was
when
early,
you first.
early
oh,
on.
okay, early on.
Yeah, it
Okay,
was
but
pretty
hey, he's
shameful.
he's still here.
Hey,
so.
I didn't lie. I didn't say I go for hikes.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Going up.
Yeah, it didn't say how far. You just went
I
up.
was like, I tried, and
Right.
he pushed. But anyway, that's a thing.
That's
So
a thing.
at
That's
some
a heaven.
point,
That's a heaven yet.
That's
Okay.
a heaven yet for sure.
Last one, Jess.
I haven't yet. It's so weird. I kind of try to sing.
Oh, okay. Can you
I've
give
been
us a few bars?
Absolutely not, because
Okay.
I don't sing. But I haven't yet tried to sing in front of people,
Oh, okay.
and I'm going to try to do that because it might hurt.
Oh, you might break the
Yeah.
mic. Yeah, we
there's
don't
no
want that.
calibration
Right.
for that. Yeah, I would love to learn to sing in front of people and not be scared.
Okay. Last one, Asha.
I think for me on the other end is it's that this is kind of setting myself up as like those TED Talks or like those big talks. Maybe at some point I can't commit to that for the next year.
Right, but you would like
But
to do something like that.
I think at some point some talk that would be.
I see you guys
significant.
doing that for sure. I think your
sure.
brand kind of speaks to that. Pardon the
Right.
pun.
Yeah.
And what you guys are doing as Black women also is such an empowering thing.
Mm-hmm.
And on that note, we will wrap it up, but I want
Yes.
to say thank you again. One, for taking time, as I said, is the most valuable thing that we have. And you guys gifted me yours tonight. So thank you so much for that. I know you're both very busy with just life. So thank you so much. And I wanted to take a moment to applaud you both and fly the Kula flag, not only because what you make is delicious, but all because what you stand for as well. And the fact that you guys are women going out there and just owning it is so empowering. It excites me and inspires me as a man, which I think is awesome. So I want to say thank you from myself and the community as a whole for doing what you do and stepping outside of your comfort zone to do something for other people. I look forward to sharing this stew with my family and friends, telling them all about you guys and what you do. And I can't wait to get this podcast out to all the listeners as well. So thank you again for being yourselves, starting Kula, and making time for the podcast. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having
It's
us.
been
This is
awesome.
amazing.
The
So
last
good.
thing is, where can people find you and how can they support you at Kula Foods?
You can find us as of yesterday at Vegan Supply in Chinatown.
Yes, I
Yes.
saw that.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Vancouver Farmers Markets. That's Main Street, downtown, Riley Park, UBC Market, Center of Sustainability, and Juice Truck. You'll see us there
Right.
popping up for all our dining series.
Do we have a next date on that one?
September 14th.
September 14th.
Yeah, get your tickets early.
Yeah, get those tickets.
Updates
You know what I'm
coming
gonna do?
up,
I'm gonna make
like, as
sure.
soon as
I'm gonna make
possible.
sure this podcast drops. When is the 14th? What day of the week is that?
That's a Friday.
Friday. We will drop this the week before that.
Amazing. Yeah.
So we'll drop it.
Perfect.
Drop it on the Wednesday.
Yes.
2 weeks before. So
Awesome.
if you're listening to this, just deal with the time thing.
Yes.
But yeah, we will here at Half Dozen Hospitality hype that as much as we possibly can
Amazing.
for you guys.
Yeah.
So guys, if you haven't,
Thank
please
you.
check out
Thank you.
Kula
And
Kitchen.
at Kula
Yes,
Kitchen
I was
on
gonna say.
Instagram and www.kulafoods.ca on the web. And last to that, we do some catering. So if you want this at your workplace or your house, just let us know.
Hit them up.
Hit us up.
Yeah.
I want to thank you ladies both again. I want to thank you guys for tuning in each and every week and supporting the podcast, supporting people like Jess and Asha and everyone else in this community. You guys are dope and you do dope things.
Yes.
And until next week, be good and do good. That's it.
Bye.
Salt and pepper here. No.
You guys did it.